Good morning and welcome to our video today on the 22nd of February from Yoker Evangelical Church. In our Bible reading plan this morning, we read Job chapter 22 and 1 Corinthians 9. If you haven't read those yet today, why not pause this video, go and take the time to read them, pray about them, and then come back. The most important thing is that we are reading the Bible for ourselves and hearing from God. In this wee video, I'd like to take a quick look at something in 1 Corinthians 9, because I think it just helps us to think through our attitude to the world at the moment. So I was reading the other day, and I read a word that was new to me. Maybe you've heard it before, monomania. Monomania. I had to Google it to find out what it meant. It is when a person is obsessed with one thing. You say they have a monomania. So they might have a monomania for dancing or for football. And it got me thinking, what would my one thing be? If somebody described me as having monomania for one thing, what would it be? And maybe you can ask yourselves that. How would you finish the sentence, I do it all for ... Maybe it would be family for you, maybe holidays, maybe just good times. What would be your monomania if you had one? And then as I was reading 1 Corinthians 9 this morning, it struck me that the Apostle Paul is a monomaniac. He is totally obsessed with one subject. Just listen to what he writes in verse 23 of chapter 9. He says, I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. Everything Paul does, he does for the gospel. It is his one obsession. And he shows us in the verses before that what that means for his rights. And as he talks about his rights, it's hard to escape how important this is for us to hear today. We live in a culture and we are so often people obsessed with our rights. We're obsessed with our right to do this, our freedom to print that, to say that, to publish this, to buy that, to meet here, to talk about that. We love our rights and we want to defend the rights that we have. As a Christian, Paul knows greater rights and freedom than any government could ever give him. He has been bought by the blood of Christ and so is free from sin. He has a right to call himself a child of the Most High. And so he knows his rights are greater than anything the world could offer. He could sit back and say, I'm secure in my rights. I know I deserve this. And yet he does something entirely different. Paul, who knows so much about his rights, is perfectly happy to put aside those rights for the sake of his monomania, for the sake of the gospel. Just listen to how he talks about it from verse 19 to 23. Though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews, I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law, I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak, I became weak, to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. Paul is so determined to reach the lost that actually he decides my rights don't matter. I'm going to put them to the side and focus on this one task of reaching the lost. He puts his freedoms aside for the sake of those he is trying to reach. Paul could have spent his life standing in courts saying, I deserve this, I want this. Instead, we find a man willing to give up anything he has for the sake of the gospel. And this was a challenge to me this morning. In our age of rights and freedoms, In what ways can we follow Paul's example? In what ways can we put aside our claims to certain rights so that by any means possible we might save some as we point them to Jesus? I hope you have a good day today, and God bless.